Hello everyone, welcome back once again to another Destiny 2 video. Today we're going to be covering a character that I was really excited to cover, and this is going to be quite a long one. They do have quite the storied history as far as the story between Destiny 1 and 2 is concerned, so I want you all to sit tight because, like I said, we're in for a long ride, so thank you all again, and I hope you enjoy the video. Crota's Bane, the Forgotten Blade, the God of Vengeance, Moondust. These titles just scratch the surface of the character we'll be discussing today. So without further ado, in today's video we'll be discussing the character of Eris Morn. Eris Morn was a hunter of the Last City and a member of the Hidden. The Hidden are a spy network run by Ikora Rey, giving these characters a long history of working together. Eris has a storied history participating in some of the most important battles and campaigns of the Last City. She was part of the Great Hunt, working alongside other guardians such as Wei Ning, Ikora Rey, and Commander Zavala to exterminate the Ahamkara. She would at some point during the operation acquire an Ahamkara bone. Eris would later participate in a campaign to retake the moon for humanity. Their enemy, however, was much more ferocious than they could ever imagine. With their trespass, they would awaken a merciless prince with green fire, a wicked sword, and thundering brutality. The Eater of Hope would cut through the Guardian ranks. Crota would slaughter many Guardians that day in the name of his father Oryx. There would be so many losses on the side of humanity, the battle would become known as the Great Disaster. Following this event, the Vanguard created a policy stating that they would no longer sanction any Guardian activities on the lunar surface. Anyone going there would receive no support from the Vanguard. Following the Great Disaster, a warlock by the name of Ariana III would seek out Eris, and together they would look for a way to kill Crota. Ariana was determined to end Crota after he slayed her lover Wei Ning. Their efforts, however, bore no fruit, so they had no choice but to confront an exiled warlock by the name of Toland. Toland the Shattered was an expert on Hive Arcana and was the key to killing Crota permanently. This conversation is recorded in the grimoire card Crota's End. My name is Ariana III, disciple of the Praxic Warlocks, marked by the Cormorant Seal, survivor of the Great Disaster. The day we set out to retake our moon, united in hosts of thousands, and found ourselves outmatched by one Hive champion of unspeakable power. The monster's name is Crota. He killed my friends face to face, one by one, and he relished it. In the name of all those lost, I devote myself to his utter destruction. This is my confession. If I transgress in your eyes, I ask for your forgiveness. In our world, Crota seemed invincible. Together, Eris Morn and I worked the problem but found no hope. So we sought forbidden knowledge, the exiled master of Hive Arcana. We found Toland. Toland tells us that Crota's presence in our world is a shadow, that its true power resides in a netherworld, forged by his will. We must pass through a keyhole between realities, navigate the seething midnight of Crota's world mind, and overthrow the ascendant champions that gather to his throne. Toland speaks. He hardly seems mad at times. The terrible things that await us. A secret song he hungers to learn, and the issue of that song, an ashen, burning star husk that looms above, the utter antithesis of life. He talks of it with a curious ambition that I do not want to understand. Tomorrow, I will ask Aga, Moda, and Tarlo if they will go with us. If we fail, I leave this record for Guardians to come. Remember us. With the knowledge that Crota's throne world was the key to killing him permanently, Ariana would gather the remaining members of the fire team, creating the first Crota fire team. Its members included Eris, Ariana, Toland, Vel Tarlo, Omar Aga, and Sai Mota. They would be picked off one by one as they moved towards Crota's throne world, with only Ariana, Toland, and Eris making it to Crota's realm. They would then confront the Death Singer Iryut, where Toland would reveal his true intentions for joining them. He would give himself up to Iryut in order to learn her death song. Toland's soul would depart for the Sea of Screams in the Ascended Plane. Ariana would fall to Crota himself, and Eris would barely escape with her life. She would wander through the tunnels of the Hellmouth, and having run out of ammo, light, and choices, she would clutch the Ahamkara bone in her hand, and her dead ghost in the other. A whisper spoke to her. With this wish, she would lose her sight, but gain the knowledge required to escape, and the eyes of a hive acolyte. After years of surviving in the tunnels on the moon, Eris would make her way back to the tower on Earth, and warn us about the terrifying hive god that lay dormant on the moon. She would lead us down a path to banish Crota's soul from the physical world. We would then follow the first fire team's lead and proceed into the Hellmouth to put an end to Crota once and for all. This would prominently be displayed in the Dark Below DLC, the trailer of which I will play right now.
Six of us went down into the pit. Only one crawled out. I am Eris, the last. I have seen what the Hive call a god. Crota, son of Oryx. He took everything from me. He will turn his eyes to Earth. And only a true weapon of the light can stop his wrath. Now you must face what lurks in the dark below.
We would make our way down into the Hellmouth, through the dark abyss and into the keyhole to Crota's throne world. There, we would make our way across the bridge, challenge Iryut, and finally mount our assault on Crota himself. There, in a world completely controlled by him, we would fell him with our guns and blades. However, this action would set into motion a terrible change for the Sol system. The death of Crota would lead to the arrival of his father, Oryx, the Taken King. Prior to Oryx's arrival in Sol, Eris would convene with the awoken Queen Mara Sov. Together, they would make a plan to have Mara be taken by Oryx and sent to his throne world, while the Guardians did battle with him. This would potentially leave Oryx's throne open to being controlled by Mara should the Guardians succeed. Eris would once again make us aware of this new threat in the system, and guide us upon a path to defeat the Taken King. We would enter the Dreadnought above Saturn and defeat Oryx within the physical plane. Eris would retrieve a shard of Oryx's sword Willbreaker and then gift it to us so we could turn it into one of the 3 exotic swords. Later, we would enter Oryx's throne world aboard the Dreadnought, challenge his most powerful minions, and eventually, the king himself. We would defeat him in a climactic battle and send his body hurtling towards Saturn's orbit. We would take his heart to Eris, who would turn it into a weapon of dark power named Touch of Malice. We hear more about Eris's thoughts on building the Touch of Malice in its lore tab. Let them feel every lash, every curse, every touch of malice that they first dealt to me, Eris Morn. Here I am, with the power to craft from my enemy's darkest secrets a weapon that could wound them at their core. So what stays my hand? When I behold the interiority of these cold, cold fragments, I see blind, squirming creatures. Every wound they give they feel also upon themselves. Every bite they tear from the light only deepens, never fills the raging emptiness between their terrible mouths. The voices are as loud as ever, my nightmares just as bitter. My coal-black hatred burns as hot, but I feel something else now. Could it be? No, I refuse it. I will build this weapon. After Oryx's defeat, Eris would remain in the tower until shortly before the Red War in order to prepare us for the Sisters of Oryx, Xivu Arath, and Savathun. In her search for relics to see through Savathun's trickery, Eris would find something sinister and haunting on the moon. This would lead us to the primary focus of the Shadowkeep campaign, the pyramid just below the moon's surface. We would make our way down to a platform above the pyramid after assaulting the hive, protecting it, and be rescued by Eris after confronting the pyramid's defenses, the nightmares. She would tell us of our new goal to enter the pyramid. While attempting to enter the pyramid, we would also help Eris confront her own nightmares of her fire team that fell to Crota. One by one, we would learn more about her relationship with each of them and their lives. Slowly, we would help her to move past those wounds of the past, and finally enter the pyramid ourselves. After entering the pyramid and retrieving the artifact inside, we would follow its signal to the Black Garden. For our journey into the garden, however, Eris interacted with one of the statues in the pyramid and discovered the power of the darkness, stasis. Eris would continue her studies until the arrival of the pyramid ships in Seoul. She would then set up camp near a pyramid ship on Io that had begun growing a tree of silver wings within the cradle. During her stay on Io, we would receive messages from the darkness that Eris would translate for us. Throughout receiving these messages, we would have to fight through interference from the Witch Queen Savathun. Her intentions unclear, as it was previously thought that she was allied with the darkness. While receiving messages from the pyramids, Eris had formulated an idea to use the pyramids' gifts against them. She would work alongside the Drifter to learn more about our enemy and how to wield the darkness against them. Eris would evacuate Io before the pyramids had taken some of the planets and moons from our solar system. She would then follow the words of the Exo-Stranger to the moon Europa to learn how to wield stasis properly. Drifter would join this group, and they would all work with us on wielding the power of stasis. Eris, meanwhile, would attempt to communicate with Commander Zavala and Ikora on the beneficial aspects of stasis. The Vanguard, however, would reject the notion of Guardians wielding the darkness, and officially condemn the use of stasis. Eris would continue her communications with Ikora and the Hidden to help her deal with the emergence of Savathun as a wielder of the light. We would later defeat Savathun and discover the name of the voice in the darkness, the Witness. Eris would also continue correspondence with Marasav, now that the Queen had returned to the material plane. The two would discuss the Witness and ways in which to defeat it. Eris would remain in the background until the events of Season of the Haunted, where we would confront Emperor Callus, who returned with his Leviathan ship in the orbit of our moon.
The lunar pyramid stirs to the Leviathan's call. It manifests our deepest regrets. They wear familiar faces and speak with familiar voices.
Remember your last advisor, Zavala. You trust this one's judgment?
I can bind these nightmares to us, grant us safe passage through the ship.
Hive magic. You would doom us all.
I know what I'm asking you to confront.
Do you?
The rules have bent around us. We must also bend.
Madness. Your witchcraft plays right into my father's hands. Find someone else for your ritual.
Your regrets will follow you, Empress. Let me offer protection.
My armor is protection enough. I will lead the charge. You need only follow.
No matter what happens, do not break the circle. This will anchor our offerings. Now, tithe your weights to the crown.
My heart, from a time long past.
My memory, from one life to the next.
Song of Sothona, your words are mine to command. Borlog, Aya.
Eris!
Chords plucked in offered throats find chorus. Echoes once dissonant, exhumed, find harmony in binding flesh. It burdens. It burdens. It burdens until the choir relents, accepting. Ayat. We are bound.
The Emperor would begin to manipulate the defenses of the Lunar Pyramid and turn the nightmares against our allies in an attempt to link himself with the Lunar Pyramid and communicate with the Witness. Eris would work alongside Zavala, Empress Keitel, the Crow, and ourselves to confront our past nightmares and sever Callus's link to the pyramid. Unfortunately, we were unable to do so in time, and Callus succeeded. Following the events of Lightfall, Eris would continue her efforts on aiding us to defeat the Witness and its allies. Chief amongst those was the last living hive goddess, Xivu Arath, the goddess of war. Eris would be a pivotal character in the Season of the Witch, where Savathun's ghost Imaru tasked us with defeating Xivu Arath to obtain a secret that would help us to follow the Witness. Eris would begin our journey to defeat Xivu by channeling a ritual that would turn herself into a partial hive being. This would lead us to tithing to Eris over the course of the season to give her more power through our acts of vengeance.
Xivu Arath draws strength from our conflict. She believes her logic absolute. I will grasp it and contravene its power. There is no other way.
Will you come back from this?
Does it matter if I do? What I am has served me, and has served humanity.
Aka, Zeta, Sel. This is what Savathun wants.
We serve our interests, not Savathun's.
She's outmaneuvered you again. You need me.
We need your silence. Do not be afraid. Bear witness to my sublimation. I separate the true from the dead. I am the many-mouthed hunger. I am the knife-edged truth. I devour the free. I conspire with my vengeance. I will take what I need. The words in my throat are the weapon in my fist. Hayat! Hayat! Hayat!
Knife-edged truth. Bring me your tithes.
During this time, many of the members of humanity would show concern regarding Eris's actions, including Ikora. She would continue to worry about Eris and the dark powers she was amassing, and would confide in Eris her concerns on using her new hive form. Eris would gain much power from our tithes, but not nearly enough to challenge Xivu. And so, in one last effort to gain the upper hand, Eris would tell Ikora to summon the body of Savathun. With the body being placed before them, Eris would command Imaru to resurrect Savathun. The rest of this scene plays out in the finale cutscene for Season of the Witch.
Eris, I've arranged the transmat, but once she's here, we'll lose containment. We can't go back on this one.
One last atrocity.
This wasn't the agreement. Xivu is still a threat.
Do it! You will not have another chance!
Eris Morn. Finally out of her shell. It looks good on you, honey.
I am your ruin.
Savathun has not been killed by a hive since she lost her worm. Stored eons of potent lies and deceit.
All Savathun's power, plus the tithes of the Guardians.
Eris Morn is the strongest hive there has ever been.
Hear me dead things. I let this moment pass unnamed, without song. This is the rejection of your sad legacy. Xivu Araf, agitator, fomenter, what a world cyst you have built from your conquests. No more. Now and forever, you are banished. Hayat.
Eris, upon killing Savathun, gained enough power to overtake Xivu Arath and banish her from her own throne world, effectively making her mortal. We would have little time to celebrate, however, as Savathun would once again be resurrected by her ghost. We find this epilogue in the lore page, A Deal's a Deal, in the Rites of Passage lore book. The air still sizzled with dissipating soul fire, as the Guardian and Ikora knelt beside Eris. An eruption of light illuminated the thick smoke behind them, and Savathun rose again, laughing. "I suppose I had that coming," the towering god said as she rubbed her renewed throat. She slowly tilted her head. "Something's different," she said carefully. "I don't feel her." Imaru darted up to Savathun's eye level. "After she took your power, Eris called up Xivu's throne world, and did something that cut her off from it." He floated to Savathun's shoulder and glared down at Eris. "Banished her from her own throne world? Eris, you overachiever, how I love you! I wound you up and you ran right over her." Savathun crouched, peering at Eris's collapsed form with intense curiosity. "I'm surprised expending that much power didn't kill you outright," she said. "Though it explains why you're back in that awful little meat body of yours." Eris propped herself up on one elbow. Ikora moved to help her rise, but Eris waved her off. "Our bargain is complete," she said. "Your sister has been dealt with, and you live again. Now," Eris demanded, her uncovered eyes glowing fiercely. "Tell us how to follow the witness." "Tell you?" Savathun frowned, her voice edged with disappointment. "I already showed you." Ikora leapt to her feet, roaring void energy distorting the air around her. She took a measured step towards Savathun. "No tricks, no riddles, no lies twisted around the truth," she said, her voice firm. "Tell us now, or I don't have any reason to let you leave here alive." Savathun slowly drew herself to her full height and grinned down at Ikora, spreading her wings wide. "Eris may have managed an interesting sword logic stunt, but I have lost none of my power." She began to hover, her talons dragged across the ground as she floated toward the warlock. "You're in no position to stop me." The Guardian rose from Eris's side. "I am," they said. Savathun paused for a long moment, her ossified face unreadable. Finally, she sighed. "Just when you are starting to impress me," she said as she closed her wings and stooped to Ikora's height. Imaru bobbed awkwardly to keep level with her. "We both need to stop the witness, and to that end I have given you what I promised," she said slowly. "You will find you have it when you are ready. Like Eris said, our bargain is complete. There's no need for drama." Ikora gritted her teeth. Savathun shrugged. "How'd all you like, Ikora?" she said. "It's not a trick, and if you won't take my word for it, then..." Savathun looked around the ritual space of her throne world. Her eyes settled on Imaru, and she smiled. "Take him." "What?" sputtered Imaru. Savathun ignored him. "Take Imaru, my loyal ghost, my connection to the light," she continued, dropping to one knee in supplication. "I leave him with the Vanguard willingly." So if you would rather give me my final death than stop the witness... Savathun closed her claws in a fist. Crunch, she purred. Capiche? Himaru flew between Savathun and Ikora. Don't I get a say in this? He shouted. No! You have your orders, and the rest of you. She gestured at Ikora, the Guardian, and Eris, who had drawn herself unsteadily to her feet. Don't mess this up. The witness wants to sweep our pieces from the board, and we're having such a lovely game. Savathun turned, wings trailing like a gown, and Ikora took a half-step forward. The Guardian was at her side in an instant. Eris placed a hand on Ikora's shoulder. Don't. Take care of yourself, Eris, Savathun said. It was such fun seeing your mask slip. The delighted laughter of the Witch Queen of Lies echoed through the ritual chamber as she vanished down the long hallway. Following these events, Eris would retreat to the last city to rest. Having expended all her power as the Hive God of Vengeance, she was once again human. She would later speak with Drifter on her feelings of the events of the Season of the Wish. We find this in the lore tab of the Gloaming Journeyer. The path to the witness is within sight. We do not know what shape Riven's bargain will take, but I know that we too will not make that crossing. Drifter listened quietly as Eris spoke, her voice tense. Dark tendrils flowed thickly from beneath her bandage. I watch as those closest to me edge towards oblivion, Eris said, her hands restless in her lap. Ikora, Mara, I am unused to helplessness. She looked to Drifter, her mouth a tight line. When she spoke, it was in a ragged breath. It's happening again. We will be alone at the end. Drifter stood after a quiet moment. Eris watched him curiously. He reached out and took her by the hand. She rose, following his silent urging. Then he put his arms around her. She tensed. He began to step away, unsure, but then her arms came up and she clung to him for a desperate moment. She felt the words in his chest as he spoke again. I remember what you said. Think about it more than I should these days. What did I say? That we'll live in the night if we have to. We do it for what comes after. Eris nodded and sighed. The pair parted, but he kept a reassuring hand on her arm. So this is where you wish to be, she said cautiously. At the end of all things. Nowhere else. No more schemes to leave Seoul? He was quiet for a moment, then shook his head, smirking. Nah, he said, and looked into her eyes. I'd miss the moonlight. This would wrap up Eris' story on a touching moment, and it's going to lead us into the events of the final shape, with our final confrontation in the Witness. Eris has been one of our most steadfast allies and foremost experts on the Hive. Xivu Arath and Savathun still alive, I definitely imagine that we'll see more of her after the events of the final shape. So, yeah, this has been an amazing video to make. It's definitely long, and it's definitely a summary. So there's plenty more of Eris' story. Definitely, if you wanted to go look at the lore, there are definitely different lore tabs and stuff that you could go check out. You could probably find all that on Ishtar Collective. That's usually what I use for when I'm conducting research on this stuff. So, yeah. Thank you all again so much for watching. This has been one of the longer videos I've made so far, but it's also been one of the most fun. I'm looking forward to covering some other of the main cast of supporting characters. That will also take quite a while. So thank you all again so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. If there's any specific moments that you'd like me to cover in more detail, please feel free to leave a comment down below. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye!